Welcome to the OLV Daily Reflection for Saturday, March 13th. Today's Gospel reading comes from the 18th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel. It reads, Jesus addressed this parable to those who were convinced of their own righteousness and despised everyone else. Two people went up to the temple area to pray. One was a Pharisee and the other was a tax collector. The Pharisee took up his position and spoke this prayer to himself. "O God, I thank you that I'm not like the rest of humanity, greedy, dishonest, adulterous, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I pay tithes on my whole income." But the tax collector stood off at a distance, would not even raise his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast and prayed, "O God, be merciful to me, a sinner." I tell you, the latter went home justified, not the former. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. I can imagine that there could be a time when a person reads this parable and thinks something like the following. I'm not the Pharisee, and I'm not the tax collector. Furthermore, there is no way that I'd ever say anything like the Pharisee said in this gospel reading about praising myself or thinking that I'm good because I'm not someone else. That's me. And this parable probably doesn't apply to my life or my family or the things I do. And if someone comes to this conclusion that this parable does not apply to his or her life, the final words of this parable should lead this person to conviction, because this attitude that I just described is what Jesus is warning his disciples about in the parable. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Therefore, we should never compare ourselves to others to make ourselves feel better or try to justify how good we are in our lives. And I do have to say, it's definitely important to look to others for inspiration and guidance as we strive to live out our lives. But again, if we are using people as objects to make sure that we feel better about our lives, or to justify our actions, or try to get out of some guilty feeling, there's nothing good that can come from that comparison. And the reason that this action is problematic is the fact that we don't know anyone's heart. We might think someone's truly rotten to the core, but we don't know. And we will not find good examples of not judging people in our contemporary culture, because social media, in a very unique way, takes great pride in deciding who's rotten to the core, not worthy of respect, or who should be politically shamed, or publicly shamed for that matter. However, I repeat, no one knows another person's heart. Only God knows a person's heart. Therefore, we might see someone who is not redeemable, but God sees his Son in that person. So there is always hope that anyone could turn from their sinful ways and embrace the narrow way of love that is found by following Jesus Christ. And the church teaches more about this reality in how we venerate the saints. The church has a long and thorough process through which someone is to be declared a saint. And this process is meant to ensure that we know as much about this person as possible before she or he is presented for public veneration. And the final steps of the canonization process is that a person has to have two miracles attributed to their intercession in order to make it to public canonization. So therefore, the final steps of the canonization process are not accomplished by any human work. These last steps are completed by God's providential care for the church, because he believes that this person's life of holiness needs to be venerated and understood more fully by the church. And here's another interesting reality about the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church will never, ever make a formal declaration about who is in hell. And we all know Catholics, which includes bishops, priests, religious, and lay people, who believe with certainty that someone has earned the fires of hell. But again, brothers and sisters, none of us know a person's heart. Furthermore, the mercy of God as I've talked about so many times throughout the daily reflections, is something that you or I cannot control. God is God. He does not need our permission to forgive or have mercy. And I can say for myself, I am thankful that He's shown His mercy to me so many times throughout my life. So in our lives, friends, we just have to be careful how we treat and regard people, no matter what happens in our lives or happens in the lives of other people. God knows our hearts. And truthfully, we hope and pray that God is more merciful than any of us, or hell might be fuller than any of us would like to know. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us.